Today on the Ask BP podcast, we're going to be talking about seller financing and whether that can help you get more loans. Stay tuned.
You're listening to another BiggerPockets Ask BP podcast, where you'll hear short, direct answers to your biggest real estate questions. Submit your question today on Facebook, Twitter, or the BiggerPockets forums by using hashtag AskBP. And don't forget to pick up your copy of The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing and other great content when you sign up for your free account at BiggerPockets.com. With that, let's get to the show.
Hey, what is going on, everyone? My name is Brandon here with the Ask BP podcast. Just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. And hopefully you can learn some good stuff today, just like every weekday of the week. So today's question comes to us from Tyler from Orlando, Florida, the happiest place on earth. And Tyler asks, can seller financing help me get more loans from the bank since they won't know about that mortgage? I think this is a really, really good question. This is something I used to wonder about as well when I was, getting started. I thought, well, if I just keep getting seller financing, then I can keep, getting a lot of loans. Now, you might be wondering, well, why would somebody have a problem with getting loans? Well, there's a couple of reasons you might not be able to get a loan. First of all, a lot of banks, especially ones that sell to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and mostly Fannie Mae, and if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it too much. But a lot of those banks that sell to Fannie Mae, they limit you to 4 loans total on your credit report. And so they say, you can only have 4 mortgages before we stop you from getting more. And, they do that because of risk and whatever else. Now, some banks will go up to 10, especially ones that sell to Freddie Mac will go up to 10 loans total, but still you're going to be stuck with one of those 2. The other reason that it might hurt you is because your debt to income, which means the amount of debt you have compared to the amount of income you have, gets too high. The ratio climbs too high. You have too much debt. And so, for a lot of people when they try to get mortgages, their debt to income is too high because of, credit cards or whatever else. But with real estate investors, we run into the problem of having too much debt because of mortgages. I mean, sure, our mortgage is $600 a month and we're renting the property for $800 a month, but banks don't always give us the full rental amount. They usually give 75%, and they say, well, you're not really getting $800, you're actually getting $600. And the mortgage is $600, so you make you got nothing there, and so it hurts your debt to income over time. And so the question again that Tyler asked was, can seller financing help me get more loans from the bank since they won't know about my mortgage? Well, yes and no. So the first thing is, you cannot lie to a bank. So they ask you during the mortgage process, how many loans do you have, and you write them all down. And so if you don't write down that you have this loan, even if it's a seller finance one, if you don't write it down, you could be called, that said that you're committing loan fraud or mortgage fraud. And that would be bad. You don't want to end up in jail. So first of all, you can't really hide it from them. And even if you tried to hide it from them, chances are they're going to look at your tax returns and they're going to see on your tax returns you have, what's all these properties? I forgot about them, right? So you can't really lie to them. You have to admit to them. However, you could get more loans because of seller financing in regards of you could get more seller finance loans, right? So, you can get as many as you want because there's no limit to how many loans you can have. It's only a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac rule. It's not like a law that says you can't have more than 4 or 10 loans. And so with seller financing, you can get 1 million loans if you wanted, if they're all seller financed. So seller financing can still be helpful, but it's not going to necessarily help you with that limit problem. The banks still might look at that. Now, that said, some banks may look differently at the seller finance ones. Some may say, it's only the ones that are on your credit report, so you're fine. So as long as you admit it up front, then they might not care. Just don't try to hide things from them, obviously. A couple other options you have. If you have a problem with a bank that is saying, nope, you can't do it because you've got too many seller finance loans or you've got a few seller finance loans, you could try a portfolio lender. That's what I use almost exclusively with my real estate. Portfolio lenders are lenders who don't sell to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Instead, they just hold on to their mortgages and they keep them in-house. And so they're just making their interest off of the money that comes in. Don't worry about that if it doesn't make sense to you. But a portfolio lender essentially is just a bank that lends its own money and doesn't sell the mortgage. So they just don't sell it. And so they can make their own rules up a little bit. They still have to abide by government regulations, but they don't have to stick with the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac rules of 4 or 10 or whatever. So that's why I use portfolio lenders a lot, is because I have more than 4 loans, but they're okay with that. They're like, I get that. I mean, my lender, one of my favorite lender right now, he's an investor as well. And so he has a bunch of loans. And so he totally gets what I'm doing because we're playing the exact same game. I love that. Another option, again, you could just do more seller financing. You can just get all seller financing for the rest of your life if you wanted to. And you could go into the commercial real estate. That's where most investors tend to get. When they get to that point where they can't get any more loans, they move over from residential to commercial. And I'm not talking about just like, buying a Walgreens building, but I'm talking about like apartment complexes. Anytime you go 5 units and up, you transfer to the commercial department, and they don't care how many loans you have on your name necessarily. I mean, sure, that plays into it in terms of, is he overloading himself? But they're a lot more flexible to be able to talk about those things. So you could always go to the commercial department as well if you're having trouble getting financing through a regular one. So Tyler, hopefully that answers your question about can seller financing help me get more loans. It's kind of a yes and no question, but just remember, don't commit mortgage fraud, and it definitely can help. I love seller financing. I love it. So with that, let's leave today with today's success quote. And today's quote comes from Babe Ruth, the great Bambino, the Sultan of SWAT, the Colossus of Clout. Is that what it was? Something like that. The Sandlot. Anybody else see that? No? Me? Oh. All right. Yes. Babe Ruth said, "Every strike brings me closer to the next home run." Every strike brings me closer to the next home run. I love that, because sometimes we think in real estate like that when we strike out or when we fail at something, when we try to get a property, I think that's a really good analogy. You try to get a property, you make an offer on it. Every time you make an offer, it's like a swing, right? And you just keep swinging. But every single swing that you make, every strikeout, eventually is going to result in a home run. And it has to. I mean, there's odds. Well, maybe not if you don't, work out your muscles and all that. But I mean, if you're doing everything right, you've got to swing, and you got to swing for the fence, and you're going to have a lot of failures. I mean, in baseball, isn't like a 400 means like 40% of the time they get on base? Like, that means 60% of the time they're failing. Babe Ruth failed at least six, I don't know his batting average, but like probably 60, 70% of the time, maybe 80% of the time, failed all the time. And the same thing is true with real estate. If you want to succeed, it's largely a numbers game. You're going to fail a lot at those kind of things. You're going to make a lot of offers. You're going to have a lot of people shoot you down. You're going to ask a lot of people to raise money. If you're raising money, you're going to ask a lot of people to raise money, and you're going to get shot down a lot of times. But the successful ones are those who persist, knowing that every strike brings me closer to the next home run, as good old Baby Ruth said. All right, so that's pretty much it. So let's get out of here. Remember, in pursuit of your dreams, do not just learn, but take action. And if you have not taken action yet today, head over to BiggerPockets.com, jump into the forums, go sign up for the newest webinar at BiggerPockets.com/webinar. Come hang out with me for a full hour of Q&A and talking, and I can teach you some cool stuff that I know. And I will see you around the site and on the next Ask BP podcast. So for BiggerPockets, this is Brandon Turner signing off.
You've just heard another episode of the BiggerPockets Ask BP podcast. Submit your question today on Facebook, Twitter, or the BiggerPockets forum by using hashtag AskBP. And for more incredible real estate investing tools and education, including a free download of our book, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Real Estate Investing, head over to BiggerPockets.com and sign up for your free account today. We'll see you on the next show.